Okay, so let's begin as we always do with sitting up straight with our spine straight, imagining a string at the tip of your head, pulling you upward, shoulders down and back, eyes gently closed or soften your gaze, tip of the tongue at the roof of your mouth, slightly tilting in your chin. You can lie down if you'd like. You can sit on the ground. Just keep in mind that if you lie down, you might fall asleep. So if you use the recording to help you sleep, that might be something that you want to do, even if it's just a part of the meditation, the breathing or the body scan or both, etc. But we want to cultivate some state somewhere between relaxed but still alert. And then have your hands wherever you want them to be. You can, but have your palms up. You can even intertwine your fingers if you would like. It's a common meditation pose. And then we will begin with just noticing where our breath is right now, not trying to change anything, but if noticing changes your breath, that's okay and is normal. Try to inhale and exhale through your nostrils to warm the breath, and then also to keep from activating your anxiety response. Maybe notice how deeply you're breathing, or whether you're not breathing deeply, whether you're breathing rapidly or not. Notice the pauses between the in breath and the out breaths. And this is a good time to take a moment to thank our lungs and our heart and our bodies for all they can do. You can even do a deep dive of thankfulness. I had a client this week tell me she was thanking the mites on her eyeballs for doing whatever they do to keep our eyes healthy. So many things really that we can be thankful for. And it's certainly important to allow whatever unpleasant feelings that are there and thoughts. But we just want to make sure that we widen the lens and in some ways look more closely and have the whole picture so that we have a balanced perspective. And because we are wired to notice the negative, because it usually means that we need to take action and change something, we have to be more intentional to practice gratitude and to be thankful for things that are working well, which we don't notice until they're not working well, like when we're sick or when we have to get hip replacement surgery or when we have a flare up of our GERD or something. So now we're going to intentionally deepen the breath, inhaling and let your belly fill up slowly, and then exhale and allow your belly to collapse, extending the exhale so till all of your breath is out. Plus, the exhale is the part that activates our relaxation response. So, as you do this, make sure that your exhale is a little bit longer than your inhale. And if you notice as you begin to breathe deeply that there's some swaying of your body, some gentle rocking, go ahead and go with that and lean into that. Let yourself rock back and forth a little. There's a reason why we rock babies and, rocking is a form of stimming because it's a way of soothing. So feel free to move with your body if your body is moving and see if that changes anything. As always, thoughts will be running through your head about the past, about the future, judgments in the present. This just lets you know that your brain is working and this is always happening. And that's why it takes mindfulness practice to be able to catch ourselves in the act of thinking, although it's not really thinking in that it's coming more from uh, a lower part of our brain more than uh, the frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex. But whenever you notice that you're thinking or that thoughts are going through your mind, regardless of how long it's been, no matter how many times that happens, once you become aware of it, just gently turn your attention back to your breathing without judgment or criticism. Similar to training a puppy, where you get the puppy and you tell the puppy to sit, and then it walks off, and you gently bring it back and tell the puppy to sit again, and it wanders off. And you do this over and over again, and eventually the puppy will be able to sit. Often in short meditations, this might not happen. That doesn't mean a short meditation isn't worthwhile. Even a mindfulness check in of 30 seconds can be helpful. But to quiet down the monkey mind, it does help to have a meditation that's probably 20 or 30 minutes just to keep in mind for your own practice. So take a few more deep breaths and then just take a moment to notice how your breathing is compared to when we started the meditation and where your mind is, keeping in mind that it doesn't have to look like anything. It can be the same, it can be different, it can be more pleasant, less pleasant. We're just honing our ability to pay close attention to ourselves. So now we're going to turn to the body scan. And with each part of the body, we're going to pay close attention. Notice what we're experiencing in that body part, whether it's neutral, whether it's pleasant, whether there's tension or discomfort. And if there is tension or discomfort, we're going to do our best to soften there, to be able to relax our muscles. It can help to try to breathe into that part of your body, to allow your breath to move the discomfort along and let it flow along its path rather than to brace against it, which is what we usually do. And that often ends up meaning that we compensate for the pain somewhere else. And so if you've ever gone to a massage, perhaps you've noticed, or even PT, you might notice that the place where you feel the pain actually isn't the place where the injury is. But because our body tries to compensate, we end up hurting somewhere else. So it's helpful to just check in and try to notice and be more familiar with our bodies and where we hold pain and do our best to check in and try to relax and soften where we can. So we're going to begin with the tips of our toes and slowly check in through all of the parts going up to your ankles. Softening, breathing, relaxing where you need to. And then once you get to your ankles, we're going to do the same thing, moving slowly up your lower leg until you get to your knees, knee pits. If you, once you get older, if you do a lot of sports, you may notice discomfort in your knees, chronic discomfort. So just do the best that you can to see what you can release in this moment. And then once you get to your knees, we're going to move to the upper part of our legs, covering all parts, the quads, inner thighs, outer thighs, hamstrings. Hamstrings tend to be particularly tight, and tight hamstrings can actually cause pain all the way up to the shoulders. Kind of an example where we don't know where the pain begins. So, stretching your hamstrings can often be a helpful thing to help with any kind of pain that's in your back. If you notice that your upper legs are tight because you feel like you need to hold yourself together, hold yourself up wherever you are seated, or even hold yourself up even if you're lying down. See if you can relax those muscles and trust that your furniture, that the earth will support you, and you don't have to do all the work. And then we're going to move up to the glutes and hips and pelvic area, our waist. Same thing about relaxing and sinking into whatever it is that you're on. If thoughts of your body start coming up, particularly judgmental thoughts, just remind yourself that this is just a thought and you can let it go and then turn your attention back to whatever sensations are in that part of your body, relaxing, softening, breathing through any pain or discomfort. Now we're going to work on the core, but we're going to start with our back since back pain is often tied to psychological stress or pain. So we're going to start with our lower back and then slowly move up to the middle back and up to the back of the shoulders. Back pain is another place where, because we have that natural instinct to brace ourselves, if we have back pain and we're afraid that we're going to tweak it, we tighten up. And then what happens is that it actually increases the back pain. And so we become more fearful and tighten up even more. And it can become so tight that we can't even move anymore. And sometimes just letting the pain go, feeling it, touching it, and then relaxing into it can be enough to ease some of the discomfort. And then, in terms of compensation, often we have pain in our upper back and shoulders. That's actually coming from our chest muscles being tight because we're hunching over our steering wheel, our computers, our devices. And so in yoga, looking up chest openers is a helpful way to stretch out the chest and have less shoulder and back pain and neck pain. There are very vulnerable poses in yoga. It's often one of the poses where when people open up their chest, they cry and they don't know why, because trauma is embodied. Even if we don't consciously access it, our body holds it, which is why yoga can be so useful for dealing with trauma. So once you get to the top of your shoulders, we're going to move down our front, down our chest, our ribs, our lower bellies. Often, when we're experiencing psychological pain, there will be some kind of resonance, and it can be difficult to develop a vocabulary for physiological sensations. So, this is a good time to practice. Some examples might be tension, droopiness, sinking feelings, something in your heart, something with your breathing, heat, if I didn't mention that. And you may notice that as you capture the feeling and stay with it starts to shift, maybe move to another part of the body, maybe go from feeling heavy to a little bit lighter. Maybe it spreads out. Maybe it dissipates a little. Maybe it disappears altogether. So, again, this is the idea that when we make contact with the discomfort rather than bracing against it, we can just be still, lean in, and let it flow. Now we're going to move to the top of our shoulders and slowly work all the way down to our fingertips. We're going to start with the top of our shoulders and examine our upper arms all the way to the elbows, softening, relaxing, releasing wherever you need to. Once you get to the elbows, moving down to your wrists, making sure you're doing your forearm and the back of your arms, tension in the wrists. Maybe if you write or type a lot, you might feel this. And when you get to your wrists, then check in with your whole hand, your palms, the back of your hand. Go through each finger all the way to the fingertip. There can be tension there too from writing and typing as well. Or if you're like me, you're constantly accidentally banging your hand into something. And then once you get to the fingertips, we're going to go back up to our shoulders and check out what's going on around our neck. I already mentioned how the neck is a part of that hunching over that we do for probably a good part of the day. This is where the 30-second mindfulness check-in can be helpful throughout the day to, maybe roll your shoulders and maybe move your head around and release whatever tension is there. Maybe put your hands behind your back and stretch out your chest a little bit. Because we might as well be comfortable in our bodies, even if we have to do things that are stressful and unpleasant. Now we're going to start focusing on the head, beginning with right above the neck, the lower part of your head, and also keeping around the sides of your head, just moving up gradually until you get to the crown. Maybe if you have headaches, notice where you feel it. See if you can relax, soften. See if it shifts anything. It doesn't have to, but Just see if it does, just experimenting. And then once you get to the crown, we're going to move down the face, beginning with the forehead. Notice if your forehead is creased out of tension, if you're shutting your eyes tightly, if your jaw is tight, you're clenching your teeth. Notice how your ears feel, how your chin feels, your lips. And just try to soften throughout the face. Let your mouth fall open if you want. Maybe you'll even start drooling because you're so relaxed, and that's okay. Just be sure to stay awake. Now we're going to do one more quick body scan, tips of the toes to the top of your head, scanning for any remaining places of tension or discomfort. See if you can soften a little more. Breathe into the discomfort. Get a little bit more relaxation. And then take a moment to notice how your body feels compared to when we started the body scan. You may notice a difference. There could be lightness, or perhaps some tension or discomfort has disappeared, but you may not notice anything. Or perhaps there's more discomfort or discomfort in places where there wasn't before. There's no right answer of how things are supposed to be. Part of the practice of meditating is practicing being non judgmental. This is not results oriented. You don't get a grade. You can't be doing better or worse or compare meditations. We are simply noticing where things are moment to moment. And now we're going to move to receiving love. And it might be helpful if it feels comfortable to put a hand on your heart, to warm up the heart, and to cultivate some self compassion. In fact, anytime you want to do this when you're feeling pain, it's a it's a simple way to send ourselves self-compassion. And the way taking deep breaths is a simple and quick way to try to activate our relaxation response. It's a kind of self-soothing for emotional pain. Because the idea that we are disconnected is an illusion, we do often need to engage in some kind of spiritual practice to make sure that we remind ourselves that we are connected to ourselves, that we are connected to one another, and that we are connected to something larger than ourselves, whatever you want to call that. To me, that is what defines a spiritual practice. and whatever specific things that you believe, whatever it is that rings true for you, is less important. And connection is the ultimate self regulation. When we feel connected, this is really when we're thriving, when our brain is operating the best, when our bodies feel good, or maybe we have moments of clarity. For a moment, everything makes sense, or everything just feels okay, or you can have some fleeting experience of joy, which may pass, but the more you practice, the more you can hold on to it. But because it's easy for our inner critic, the little devil on your shoulder, or however you want to think of it, can undermine our belief that we are loved. We have to practice feeling that connection underneath. So I want you to begin by thinking of maybe family members or partners who you know love you. Not perfectly, because there is no perfect love on earth, but you know that they do love you as best as they are capable of loving you. And go through each person and see if you can actually feel their love. You can also imagine opening up your crown and receiving the love there too, in addition to your heart. Perhaps you can also include mentors, people who have guided you through life, who we often send loving kindness to. You probably send loving kindness to them because they did something for you because they love you. So call to mind each of them and see if you can feel their love. If you have many people who you're thinking about, take your time and go at your own pace. This practice will probably become longer and longer if you do it in your own time, as you realize the number of people who love you. Maybe go to the next circle out and think of friends and people in your community who love you. Think of each of them and see if you can feel it. Think about people who you have helped, who have expressed gratitude to you for doing what you do, and feel their love too. Remembering particular incidents, giving yourself permission to take that in, that the love that you gave came back to you. Think of maybe people who you have helped but don't have direct contact with or don't have a relationship with. Maybe just if you make donations or do volunteer work or send loving kindness to, pray for. Like on social media, just letting them know that they gave you something to think about, something that resonated for you. That's a kind of love too. We often talk about it as an addiction, but we can go underneath that and think of it as our desire to connect. Even call to mind the people who challenge you and push you, criticized you. In a way, perhaps you can use this to cultivate love for yourself because they have forced you to grow, to learn, to have compassion for yourself, and in turn, have compassion for other people as well. And how, ironically, sometimes it's a gift when you have risen to the challenge and became wiser from what you learned from those people. Call to mind all of the people who do what we're doing right now in practicing. People who practice loving kindness do exactly what we do when we send loving kindness to all sentient beings. And see if you can feel that free floating, freely given loving kindness that includes you. That's always out there, floating in the energy of our lives. People who are putting loving energy into the universe. And because you practice, you know that it's true and you can receive it. And think of whatever it is that it's larger than you, whether it's God or the universe or whatever label you have for it, trusting that it's benevolent, that it tries to show you the way, that it tries to stop you when you're going down the wrong path. I know that for me, as I invite the universe to guide me and tell me what my next step is as I embark on this book writing, I always get an answer. And in any time, in my lowest times, when I gave up hope and felt helpless, no matter how long that period felt, it would come to an end and I would feel better. The universe, that higher power, it is benevolent and it wants you to be happy, loves you, and wants you to thrive. Now just take a moment to check in with your heart and the area around your heart, maybe your crown too. Just notice whether anything feels different. Again, no expectations, no way that it has to be, no right or wrong, good or bad, better or worse, no evaluations, no judgments. And then let's just take a little note of how we feel in general, where our mind is, where our breath is, where our bodies are. Just noticing if anything feels different from when we started the meditation. And then in your own time, taking some more of those deep breaths, allowing yourself to fully feel it throughout your body. And then when you're ready, you can turn your attention back to the room.